mind me. Just sweeping the Dodgers under the rug.
This season of baseball is absolutely insane. I've got so much to talk about. But before I start, I want to correct some things I said in the last video, or at least touch on them. First of all, I would like to give a huge congratulations to Rizzo last night for walking it off on his day off. He was pumping his fist rounding the base. It was amazing. Did we go to the 12th last night? I think we went to the 11th or 12th last night. 6-5 and 11 innings for a 9-inning game. So it was insane last night. But I just want to give props to Kris Bryant. I said in my last Blue Sports video that I welcomed him to prove me wrong with the fact that he would be the key player we could afford to trade. He proved me wrong, and nobody is happier about it than me. He is putting up better numbers right now than he did during his MVP campaign back in 2016. He's batting like 3% better, and he just won NL Player of the Week. He's batting like 400, or at least he was before the Dodgers series. He's batting 400 in like the span of 2-3 series. And he's just been lights out. He's been amazing. And I want to give props to Matt Duffy on the Cubs. I was hesitant about having him on the starting roster opening day, but as Cubs fans have learned, and I'm sure other fans from teams he's been on have learned, Duffy, he's not a noisy guy as far as like power. Like, he doesn't have any homers, but he's a great base runner. He's a utility guy. He can play pretty much wherever you want him. He's primarily at third, but he just quietly does his job. He's quietly batting. I think he's batting over 285. I want to fact check that. Duffy was 3 for 4 last night. He's batting 308 on today's off day on May 6th. 308 for Matt Duffy, and that has been an absolute blessing because the Cubs have been peppered with injuries lately. Hoerner and Happ had a nasty collision in the outfield in Cincinnati the other day. So they're both kind of recovering. So Hoerner's out, Happ is out, and Peterson just got back from a stint on the IL. He hit a ball last night that was 5 feet short of walking it off, but he hit a deep sac fly to tie the game. One thing with Peterson, he's struggling at this point in the year. He's batting like 150, I think, roughly. But we saw it a lot with Kris Bryant these last 2 or even 3 years. Bryant has been peppered with injuries. He's been working through injuries and playing through injuries that he really shouldn't be playing through. That's kind of what Peterson did. He had a wrist issue, and we all saw him absolutely crush everything in spring training. I know that's a little bit of a different animal, or a moderately different animal than regular season for baseball. But Peterson, we know he has the power. And it's just like Bryant. Bryant got his injury stuff figured out. He retooled his swing, and Bryant's hitting. What is Bryant's average right now? I'm not sure he got a hit last night. Yeah, he went 0 for 4 last night, but even after that, he's batting 308, same as Matt Duffy. Bryant's been working through a bunch of, the wrist bothered him a lot. I think he worked through an ankle injury at one point over the last few years, but when Bryant can stay healthy, he'll put up numbers. Peterson does the same thing. When he is healthy, he's going to put up really good numbers. I also want to take time to look at Jake Marisnick. I've been preaching that this guy get more playing time since I started seeing him in regular season action. He was the only guy in the lineup batting over 300 for like the first 2 weeks of the season. Granted, that was in limited at-bats, but in the limited at-bats he got, he put up numbers. So he is picking it up. He's hit like 2 home runs. He hit 2 home runs in this series against the Dodgers. So he's doing very well. He's a versatile outfielder. He's a very good center fielder. Honestly, at this point, I'd take him over Happ because Happ's kind of struggling. Happ's starting to get out of it, and he's also injured. But yeah, Ian Happ's numbers have fallen off since last year. I've mentioned this before, I think, but fans being back in the stands, it affects players differently. Because Javi, he said he hated not having fans last year, and he had one of the worst strikeout rates and one of the worst batting averages in all of baseball last year. And then there was guys like Yu Darvish, who's now on the Padres. Don't remind me.
Darvish came out of that little multi-year, well, not a little multi-year slump. When he got knocked around by the Astros in the World Series, he kind of lost some stuff there. But toward the end of the 2019 season, he really turned it on, and then there were no fans. I think no fans helped Darvish because he was the Cy Young winner
that wasn't Trevor Bauer last year. And we knocked around Trevor Bauer and Clayton Kershaw in a doubleheader on Tuesday. Yeah, Monday's game got rained out. So Tuesday we had a doubleheader against Bauer and Kershaw. Kershaw went up first. Kershaw didn't make it to the second inning. He had the worst first inning of his career. He had the worst start of his career. We had Bodie had a 3-run double, and then Rizzo hit in a run. So we put up 4 on Kershaw in the first inning, and he was done. I mean, he didn't look great. He was bouncing a lot of balls, but it was very interesting. And then Bauer, some players on our squad see him very well because he was in Cincinnati last year, so we kind of know how to hit off him. But I've been touching on the Cubs a lot. I just want to break down these standings to you guys. These are absolutely just insane. So I'm going to count. Let's see. I'm looking at all of the standings right now. There are 5 teams in the league that are 4.5 games out of first or more, and this is all of baseball. So the Minnesota Twins are 7 games under, but they're only 5 games out of first place. The Detroit Tigers, they're 9-22, so they're like 13 under 500, but they're 8 games out. I mean, that's not great, but it could be worse. Everybody in the AL West is within 4.5 games of each other. The AL Central has a 3-way tie for first, with the White Sox, Cleveland, and the Royals all at 16 and 13. And Kansas City, they've been very, very hot. I mean, right now they have a 4-game losing streak, but they won 6+ in a row before that. So Kansas City's kind of surprising everybody. They have a bunch of new guys that have been doing great for them. And I'm very surprised that Cleveland is doing well. I mean, they have some good pitching. They have, who's that one young guy that's a good pitcher for Cleveland? Tristan McKenzie. Oh, he's not doing well this year. He has a 6.27 ERA. So maybe not him. But I'm very surprised with how well Cleveland's doing this year because they have one of the smallest payrolls in baseball behind the Pirates. Speaking of the Pirates, they're in last place, but they're only 4 games under. So I think everybody's surprised by how the Pirates are doing. The Pirates did very well against the Cubs earlier this season. I think 2 of our first 3 series were against the Pirates, and the Pirates, I think over all those games, I think we split those first 2 series 3-3. But that was back before we got the bats going. I'm going to break into that for a second. Guys, since the 2017 playoffs, being a Cubs fan has been very, very frustrating because we're good. We have, on paper, we are a mid-level playoff team. We are a division series, maybe an NLCS playoff team if we have everything running. But the inconsistency on offense is terrible. Our RISP numbers over the last few years are terrible. We're living and dying by homers half of the time. It's just not good. But these last few weeks, the Cubs have been stringing together small ball hits, and we've been winning games, or at least making them close. And the Cubs bullpen, it's been a little bit shaky these last few games, but it's been amazing. And Craig Kimbrell. Kimbrell is so good this year. He blew a save the other night, but he didn't get the loss. That's the first run he allowed. It was a home run off the bat of Max Muncy, I think. It was a homer off of a Dodger, but Kimbrell is back to his old self, even though he blew a save the other night. But he cleaned up the Dodgers last night in an extra inning situation, I believe. And there's that runner on second rule to start extra innings. I hate that so much. It costs teams games. That runner on second is charged to the pitcher, I think. It's terrible for pitchers. It's terrible for away teams. It just sucks. And I hope the rule gets abolished. But back to the standings. I'm sorry. I feel, since I've been home, I've just felt so scatterbrained about everything. I'm just jumping from left to right with stuff. Oh, I didn't even see this. The National League East, from 1st to 5th, is separated by 2 games. Philadelphia is 1 over 500. They're in first. The Mets are a game behind. They're 1 game under 500. Atlanta and Washington are a game and a half behind. They are both 2 under. And then Miami is 3 under, and they're 2 games behind. So that's crazy. The NL Central is pretty tight. St. Louis is in first. Milwaukee's 1 game behind them. Then the Cubs and Reds. The Cubs have 1 percentage point over the Reds, but they're both 3 games behind, and then Pittsburgh's 4 games behind. And then, oh, guys, the NL West has been nutty. The Dodgers and the Padres, that rivalry has been nuts. There was a bench clearing thing one time. There have been highway robberies, or home run robberies. I guess you could call it highway robbery. But those series have been insane. I think MLB TV logged like the most watched week in their history because of those games earlier this year. And then the Giants have came out of nowhere. They're 5 over. They're in first place. They're half a game in first place. They're 5 games over. And then San Diego's in second. And then after the Cubs swept the Dodgers, they're only 2 games over 500. The Dodgers have lost 13 of their last 17 games. They're only 2 games over 500. And then the Diamondbacks, they're hanging in there too. They're right at 500. So they're 2.5 behind San Francisco. And then the Rockies, they're 7 under. So one of the famous sayings that my idol Pat Hughes, he likes to say, he says, you can't win a division race in April, but you sure can lose one. Or maybe it's pennant race, division race. You can win a race, or you can't win a race in April, but you can lose one. But 90% of teams in this league this year, they're still in contention. Because as I mentioned, most of the league is within 4.5 games of first place. So the Colorado Rockies, they're one of those teams that I think is out of it. They're in that crazy NL West with the Giants, Padres, Dodgers, and then the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks always find a way. They're usually a little bit under 500, or they usually float around by 500, but they know how to play really every team in the league well. They're fairly consistent, but usually they drop maybe 6 of 11 and kind of repeat that throughout the whole year. But they're fairly consistent as far as not getting swept and stuff. So Arizona is a good team. They play everybody fairly well, but they float around 500. So there's that. And then the Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and then Colorado dealing Arenado to the Cardinals. And then I think they've had some injuries as well, and the Rockies' pitching hasn't been great, so they're suffering. So I think Colorado's out of it. But then again, baseball's crazy. It's only May 6th. Colorado could come back. In 2019, the Nationals were double-digit games below 500 in May, and everybody counted them out, and then they came back and won the World Series in 2019. So they could certainly come back, but Colorado, at this point, they have a very slim light at the end of the tunnel. And then that's really the only National League team that's out of it. And then for sure, they have no chance, the Detroit Tigers. I genuinely feel bad for Detroit sports fans in general. When was the last time a Detroit team won a professional championship? I think it was the Pistons in the 80s or the early 90s or whenever they won there too. The Detroit sports fan base, they're sad, and I don't blame them, because the Pistons won their championship in the late 80s, early 90s. They won 2 of them, and then they really haven't had anything since. The Red Wings for hockey, they've been on and off. The Lions are the Lions, and the Tigers did make the World Series back in 2011, I think, but the Cardinals beat them. So, yeah, Detroit, what's their record? I think they're 13 games under, if I saw correctly. Yeah, they're 9-22. So, that AL Central Division is in a 3-way tie for first with the White Sox, Cleveland, and then the Royals. And then Minnesota's 5 games back. I swear, I see a highlight of Byron Buxton on Instagram every day. He is having such a great year. I don't think Byron Buxton gets enough credit. I'm friends with a lot of Twins fans. They're great people. And the Twins they're a team you want to root for, because they have such just a great clubhouse, and they've got Byron Buxton, and they have Nelson Cruz. I believe Max Kepler is still there, and then they've got a bunch of other guys.
that I can't even remember the names of, but they're just decent human beings and decent ball players. But Byron Buxton, he's been balling out. He makes a Sports Center top 10 catch every day. He's been hitting homers. He's been driving balls in the gap. I want to look up his stats. I want to see how Buxton is doing. Oh, wow. These are even better than I thought. Batting 379. Buxton is batting 379. He's got 9 homers, 17 RBI, 33 hits in 23 games, 4 steals, 10 doubles. So he's having a Bryant-like season, except he's got a much higher average, but he's getting a lot of extra base hits, and that's not even accounting his defensive stats. If Byron Buxton stays on the pace he's going, he will be in solid contention for a center field Gold Glove for the American League. I think he's got a great shot at that. Mike Trout will give him a run for his money. Mike Trout's just doing Mike Trout things. Him and Ohtani. Oh, Ohtani at the beginning of the season, he threw like a 101-mile-an-hour pitch in the top of the first inning, and in the bottom of the first, he hit like a 115 homer off the bat. Ohtani, he is a not once in a generation, he's a once in a lifetime player. There has not been a player like him in the majors that can do what he do at the level he does since Babe Ruth. And he's been challenging Babe Ruth as far as statistics. He led, like, for a stretch of like 2 days, he led the league in homers, and he's technically a pitcher, and so was Babe Ruth. He was the first one to do that since Babe Ruth. So he's been really fun to watch. And then Mike Trout's being Mike Trout. He's doing Mike Trout things. And guys, it is almost anybody's game. I think really the only teams that are really counted out right now are maybe the Rockies, unless they somehow go on a run, which I don't see happening, and then the Tigers are out of it. But everybody else is in contention because the Dodgers are real cold right now, and there are so many close division races. It's just absolutely insane. And I'm proud of my Cubbies for sweeping the Dodgers. We're going to Pittsburgh tomorrow. Hopefully we can win that series and get some revenge for that second series where we dropped 2 of 3. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch on my last video and make a video during a Cubs off day, just kind of breaking down what I see in the Cubs sphere and then around the league. But it is anybody's game right now, guys. It is so exciting. All right, that's all I've got. I'm done talking at you guys. I hope you guys will join me for my stream tonight at 7 o'clock on Twitch. I'll be streaming Bomber Grounds. I will put the link to my stream in the description if you want to do that. And it'll be on my About tab if you're on a mobile device, and then there'll be a Twitch icon on a computer if you're viewing it there. All right, that's all I've got for you guys. Thanks for listening. Go Cubbies. Peace out.